Hello and welcome to part 2 of the Gundam Battle Assault 2 Basic Guide for Full Armor Double Zeta Gundam. If you haven't seen part 1, please do so. The link will be in the description so it'll be easier to find. In part 1, we went over the move list, the basic combos, and the functionality of the eye field. And in part 2, we're going to get more detail on that and how to use this character. Double Zeta is one of the few characters that uses an eye field instead of dodging, where when you press 2 buttons at the same time you perform a dodge. Instead, what Double Zeta does is he temporarily pulls out an eye field shield for a short duration. And what this shield does is it will block all projectiles, Vulcans, beams, beam rifles, beam cannons, mega special beams, and all beam sabers and unblockables. It'll block it, and it will basically nullify its effect, so you can move while being hit by it. So it's kind of like an armored hit for those moves exclusively. You can still get hit by physical attacks like punches and kicks and stuff. So you can still eat a combo while shielded. So in terms of physical attackers, it sucks not having that dodge. But if you're fighting like a Death Sight or a character that relies on beams and projectiles like Epion, or not, like projectiles like what's his name, Heavy Arms. It's really useful to just be able to rush in, ignoring all those projectiles and just punishing your opponent like that. And in terms of that particular move, Double Zeta is probably the best character that has it because of the nature of his normals. His jab, while a little bit slower than most of the other characters, crosses up much easier on block than any of the other characters in the game. Where most characters, when you get blocked, that's pretty much the end of what you were doing and you have to rush in again. Double Zeta, his jab has less lag in between each hit when blocked, so it's a lot easier to cross up with it, and you're going to find yourself rushing a lot more because of that, which is okay because his combos are pretty good. His most damaging ones are the ones that use ammo, and you really don't have a lot of ammo. So this is a character that fizzles out potentially halfway through a round. So you have to be pretty frugal with your ammo, basically using it primarily for combo enders for that extra damage. You're really only going to do that damaging combo about 3 times once a bar, if that. Everything else, if you're going to use it as a projectile, use the light version. Do not use the heavy version at all, unless you're doing it as the combo ender. Really, I would stick to just using the circle button, the Mega Particle Cannon, as a projectile, unless you really need that tracking. And there are some situations, like if you get knocked into the air and you need to stop midair, it's a good move to do that with. The missiles I found to just be completely useless unless your opponent is way up in the air. Otherwise, I just don't do it. Rising Knee, it's got invincible startup, so it's a good counter, but it's not a good combo ender because it uses up 100 ammo, and it doesn't combo because it's just the nature of the hitbox. Like the hitbox has to be really close when you hit with him in order for the second part to combo, otherwise it just won't. And then it's just a waste of 2 shots, and that's a huge issue when you're playing Double Zeta because that's a 1/5 of your ammo just gone. His unblockable is pretty slow. It's not the slowest, so it can be used, but I wouldn't rely on it. I would rely more on his jab than anything else in terms of getting through blockers. His best overhead is basically down jump and kick, light kick. It's pretty fast, but it requires you to jump. Mega Special. It's a beam special like a lot of the other characters in the game, but unlike a lot of the other characters, it has tracking. It'll actually track your opponent. But what it gains in tracking and accuracy, it loses in damage and speed. Doesn't do as much damage as the other characters' specials will. And unfortunately, it has a really slow startup, especially for a Mega Special. So it really cannot be comboed into at all, at least from what I found. The only really way to kind of sort of combo into it is through after an overheat, but it doesn't really do that much damage into the next bar, and I'm pretty sure most characters can get out of it either through a dodge or just boosting away. I might be wrong, but that's just my guess. In terms of how to play this character, I could be wrong, but I would say you're probably going to end up rushing. Use the shield to catch your opponent off guard. Use it as a counter. Don't rush in with the shield, because then that tells your opponent, alright, well, all I gotta do is use physical attacks and just don't use any projectiles. Wait for your opponent to use a projectile or a special before activating the eye field. It actually gives you enough time, usually between specials, to do that. And then you rush in and take your opponent by surprise with it. And Double Zeta has the tools to efficiently do so, because of his jabs and his damage. That's basically all I have to say about Double Zeta, so stay tuned for the next guide. See you then.